It is a snow day and I am so excited. It hardly ever snows in the part of England that I live in, but I am a huge snow lover. The town where I went to university would get so much snow every single year. It would sometimes be up past your knees, and every winter I miss it so much. So the fact that even before Christmas we're getting enough snow to have a nice little walk in is just amazing to me. I've been out for a dog walk, I've been out to have a little bit of a play in it, and it has stopped snowing. There's a slight dusting on the ground still, but it's likely to be gone by the time I'm done with my writing session today. But that's okay, because there's nothing better to do on a cold day than to turn on the heating and curl up for a reading or writing session. So today we're gonna have a snow day writing vlog. Thanks so much for watching, by the way. My name's Sam. I'm a romance author based in the UK. If you haven't seen any of my videos, just as a bit of background, I'm working on a romance trilogy that I'm calling Project Gilbert. I wrote book 1 over the late summer, early autumn, and then I started book 2 during NaNoWriMo. You can catch the vlogs for all of that at the link in the description. However, now I'm going back and rewriting most of book 1, and the reason that I'm doing that is because I decided about 2/3 of the way through to change the point of view and tense. And the reason why I bring that up today is because I'm finding myself faced with a scene that is going to need quite a heavy rewrite to accommodate that point of view and tense, which might surprise you because you might think that all I need to do is change pronouns and change the tense of the verbs. And for a lot of the parts of the book, that is true. I just need to change "she did this" to "I do this." But for a lot of scenes, the change in point of view and tense is a lot more meaningful than that. And it goes back to the reason why I made that change to begin with. I did it because I didn't really feel like I was connecting with the character. She didn't feel real or understandable or relatable or important to me. I didn't feel like readers were going to care about the things that she cared about, because that connection, that degree of separation was just too far. When I changed to first person present tense, it added that immediacy and that connection that I was looking for. And the way that it did that isn't just through pronouns and verb tenses, it was also through what it's like in the narrative when someone is in the moment experiencing something. Think about how you tell a story. If you were just walking around narrating things, the kind of details that you're going to mention are very different than the ones that you would mention if you were telling a story that happened 2 weeks ago. So in this scene in particular, my main character is on the beach in Oregon, and she's getting ready to meet someone who is very important to the story. And anytime we're about to have a really important, impactful moment, we want to make sure that the reader is really paying attention. We need to make sure that we're grounding the reader in that place. We need to make sure that they're right there with our main character. And one of the ways that we do this is through the 5 senses. So in the third person past tense that I originally wrote this scene in, the character is only mentioning the important things. Yes, she's describing the scenery because that's an important part of the scene, but she doesn't feel grounded in it. By moving it to first person present tense, I'm finding it necessitates grounding in the surroundings a lot more, because the decisions that she's making are so driven by her environment. And that present tense is adding an immediacy to those things that makes it feel really real to the person reading it, which is me in this instance. As I'm reading through this scene, as I'm rewriting it, I'm finding that it makes a really big difference to put it in that present tense. As a result, I'm going to be adding quite a lot of words to this scene, I think. It's currently sitting at about 1,800 words after I've already done some of the rewrite. It was originally at about 1,600, but I'm about to get into the crux of it. I'm just gonna estimate here, and we'll see at the end of the vlog if this ended up being correct. But I'm estimating that it's gonna end up being closer to 2,200 or 2,300, which is quite a big leap in terms of percentage of the words that I've written so far. Come on, let's get started. Okay, so here we've got a really good example. This is a paragraph where she's just come onto the beach, and the old paragraph read, "Holly blinked against the thin afternoon sunlight. The jet lag made her feel heavy, as if the sand she could feel between her toes had taken up residence in her head. It was nearly 1 a.m. back in Italy, but for her now it was just after 4. Not that she should be on Italy time anymore after 4 days in her new destination." This is a very reflective paragraph. It's talking about how long she's been there. It's talking about what she's doing, and yes, a little bit about how she feels in terms of the jet lag made her feel heavy, but it's not discovering those sensations, it's recapping them. I think the important visual and like somatic experiences here are the blinking against the afternoon sun, because then her eyes are going to focus in on something important that she's going to see, as well as illustrating that she is still jet lagged despite having been there for 4 days. That's an important piece of information to convey. I feel like I got overly attached to the line about like the sand between her toes taking up residence in her head. There's gonna be lots of squinting going on. There's gonna be lots of like swallowing. Interesting. So you can see I'm just kind of like forcing myself to really like get into this moment, like imagine myself in this situation and like what are the things that I'm noticing, because when you're in first person present it has to feel tangible and realistic and relatable because you're narrating it as it's happening, whereas when you're looking backward it's maybe a little bit more forgiving because you've got the narrative lens that you can look through. And if you're telling a story that happened in the past, you're naturally going to just focus on the most important parts. So this still needs some work. As a result, this section in particular, and anything where like the outside is a really important part of the story, which is going to be a lot in this book, it's taking me a lot longer to get through the rewrite than some other more like action intensive sections where it is more just about like changing pronouns and changing tenses. I still want to make sure that I'm inserting enough of the like sense grounding in those scenes, but actually that's something that I have learned to do anyway as I write. It's something that I'm really conscious of, like when there's a fight happening, what is the person feeling in their body? And I think it's because of all the therapy that I've done where my therapist would just ask me, how does that feel in your body? So when I'm writing scenes, I'm doing that as well. So because I've like really intentionally inserted it into those scenes, I don't have to do as much of that insertion now in the rewrite, whereas ironically the scenes where it's now needed most in first person present tense are the scenes where I haven't been quite so deliberate about it, so I'm having to do a lot more work. I still need to do another edit after I've done this rewrite, so I'm not too worried about making sure every sentence is perfect. I'm mostly just worried about making sure it's in the right point of view and tense. But I do want to try to make the most of this rewrite, so I'm adding things in, but I'm not gonna like obsess over individual sentences at this stage. So I'm gonna keep going. Okay, so that's all I've got in me for now. I did finish the scene and it ended up being 2,600 words, which is ridiculous. So quite a bit longer than it was before by adding a lot of this detail, but I think it reads so much better. I also then just started the next scene. I do have other things I need to do, so I did stop very quickly into the next scene, but that's okay because I think it's in a good spot for me to pick up tomorrow. This is quite a high word count, and just for transparency, I've been going for like nearly 4 hours, and it's because we had a lot of plans today, and because of the snow day, they've been kind of scuppered, so I had the extra time to dedicate to it. Otherwise, honestly, at the pace I was going in a normal writing session, I only would have gotten gotten through maybe 500 words or so. I think there's two lessons that I've highlighted today. One, which is definitely, especially when you're in first person, but really in anything, when you're in those really important scenes, make sure that you ground the reader using the five senses and that you try to make that as realistic and relatable as possible. That way they feel as in your character's shoes as possible before that big milestone in the story happens. The second lesson is that when you're in the drafting or rewriting stage, or even in your first round of edits, don't get bogged down in the line level. It's not the time for that. You can do another pass later on when you're happy with the story and you're happy with the structure and you're happy with those big picture items. Then you can start to go through on a line level and make those improvements. As predicted, the snow has fully melted. I can see outside my window. So it was like half a snow day, but that's okay. It's still very cold, so I'm going to go downstairs, make myself a cup of tea, and I'm going to do some reading. I've got a really exciting dark academia reading challenge that I'm finishing up, and I'm just going to be wrapping that up today. So you should see that video coming your way very soon. Be sure to hit subscribe if you don't want to miss that, and if you'd like to see the other writing vlogs that I've got coming as well. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.